Hi guys, I'm Kristen. This is Kristen is Fully Booked. Welcome and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a rapid fire wrap up for all of the books that I've been reading recently. So I am supposed to do these recent reads videos every time that I read 5 books. And I originally created that limit because I know that I have such a hard time talking briefly about the books that I have read. And I have failed so miserably at this 5-book cutoff, basically since the inception of the idea for this video. I think there was one time where I did it at 4, and otherwise it has always been over 5. This time it has been particularly bad. I have 13 books that I need to talk about. It was just a combination of feeling meh about what I was reading, in a weird reading mood, as well as having like some strict obligations for videos that had to come out the past couple weeks. So here I am left with needing to talk about 13 books and not wanting to give you a 2-hour book, which is a high feasibility, or at least me spending 2 hours talking about these 13 books, trying to wrap them all up in a way that feels effective. And instead of completely avoiding ever telling you about these 13 books, which is genuinely a valid option that I considered, I am instead going to punish myself and give myself only 1 minute to talk about each of these books today. Can I do it? Probably not. I've got my old phone with my timer here so that I can try to cut myself off at the 1 minute mark. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to introduce the title and the author of the book, and then I'm going to start the timer and talk for 1 minute. Hopefully this is not terrible. Okay, let's get started. The first book that I finished since my last recent reads was Spear by Nicola Griffith. This is an Arthurian retelling of one of the companions of King Arthur. We follow this girl who's growing up in the wild, in the woods, with her mother, who is very clearly in hiding from something. But this girl always knows that she wants more. She knows that her destiny lies elsewhere, so at a certain age, she takes off on her own and makes her way to Caerleon. She is a warrior. She dresses as a man. She doesn't correct people when they mistakenly identify her as a man. She does not identify as one. She is very open with the woman that she beds along the way about who she is, and I just like that she was unabashedly, this is who I am, this is how I dress, what of it? I love that for her. There was definitely some mythology stuff going on here, and I don't feel like I missed out on anything in particular, not knowing all of the specifics of this legend or this story, just that there was definitely some stuff going on. I listened to the audiobook, really enjoyed it. It felt like a really cozy experience of being told an old fable, sitting around a campfire, but I will say that I think that I would have preferred this if it was a full-length novel, because I think that I would have gotten more from the story overall. Okay, I cut it off like just over, I think, at least on my end. The next book that I finished was A Mirror Mended by Alex E. Harrow. This is the second book in the Fractured Fable series. It is a novella as well. We follow Zinnia, who is a 20-something-year-old girl with a fatal, incurable disease. In the first book, A Spindle Splintered, she gets sucked into an alternate universe of Sleeping Beauties, and in this book, she's actually accidentally sucked into an alternate universe of Snow White, but it is this time the evil queen who is asking for help to escape their story. I was definitely expecting like a big backstory, sob story of the evil queen, a la something like Once Upon a Time, that show, but that wasn't exactly the case. We more just shifted the focus to look more at the restrictions on the evil queen's own life. The story overall had a definite focus on agency and the idea of happy for now, and I liked that that tied into Zinnia's story and her situation as well, but I did so in a complicated way that I wasn't quite sure how to feel about. I did really enjoy this. I think it was a good read, but I think whereas compared to the first book, where I finished the story feeling like I had been, or that I was satisfied with the story that had been told, this one I was left feeling a little bit wanting, but maybe that was intentional. Okay, a little bit over again. Then I read Fool's Errand by Robin Hobb. This is the first book in the Tawnyman series, which is the third overall series in the Realm of the Elderlings, which I'm of course doing a buddy read with Maria from the channel. Maria might read that, and we are picking up with Fitz about 15 or so, I think, years after the end of Farseer, which lines up with the time period that Fitz was in when he was narrating the events of Farseer. In this one, we got a little bit of like an update of what's been going on with Fitz's life. The pace was a much quicker read because there is a very defined plot of a missing person and Fitz has been enlisted in to help find that person. I honestly am just so conflicted when I think about Fitz and his relationships with people. There are times when right along there with Fitz, I am convinced that nobody loves him and that he's being used and manipulated. But then we'll have another scene and it is just as clear that people do really love him and he just can't see it. And I think that this narrative perspective is so intentional by Robin Hobb to deceive us right there along with Fitz. I really liked where we left off in this series. I'm looking forward to see where we go forward in the rest of the Tawny Man, but I think on the book on its own was just okay. Okay, I'm not getting them under 1 minute, but I am getting close. The next book is Somerset Castle Arbonne by Sharon Shin. I read this as a buddy read with Yolene from the channel Yolene Reads. This is a cozy castle setting coming of age story. We follow Corey, who is the illegitimate daughter of a high lord or of a lord, and she is brought every summer to spend time with her half-sister who is betrothed to the prince. Corey is not into court intrigue at all, and there was so much court intrigue going around her, but we only ever got snippets, and I found that really, really frustrating. Corey is very naive, and she has her eyes like slowly opened up to what is going around her over the course of the book. There was this whole side plot with this world's version of Fae who are being enslaved and used as servants, and I felt like that whole side plot was used as a plot device to show Corey's growth and to set her a little bit aside from everyone else around her. The contrast of her straddling these two different worlds where she's treated almost as a lady in the summer and lives in a small cottage for the rest of the year was like really, really interesting because she was never really part of each world. There was a little bit of a romance, but I felt like I could have used a little bit more development. It was one of those ones where like you only know that it's going to happen because of the internal denials where she's like, well, I don't care who he likes, and it just wrapped up a little bit too quickly for me. This book was so consumable. I really, really enjoyed it. Easy to get sucked into, but I just wanted more court, more intrigue, more romance. And then I read Within the Sanctuary of Wings by Marie Brennan. I won't have a hard time talking about this in under 1 minute because I already had a chance to vent out all of my feelings in our live show, which I will link down below. This is the 5th and final book in the Memoirs of Lady Trent series that I've been doing a read along with since February. I have had a really mixed bag experience with this series, each book being very up and down, and I really, really, really needed this book to be a win, and it just wasn't. I was so disappointed by the final discovery, like the big reveal, and it left a really bad sour taste in my mouth. I feel like each book ended with Isabella saving the day in some political nonsense that she had nothing to do with and that screamed white savior. This is such a beloved series and a beloved character, and overall, like, I did really enjoy my time with these books. I will still recommend this series for very specific reasons, but the ending of the series just really, really, really wasn't for me, and I don't think that I will be continuing on and reading the companion series Turning Darkness into Light. Yay! I did! The last book in the fantasy sci-fi section here that I read was Old Man's War by John Scalzi. This is a sci-fi book that I picked up as part of a local book club. It is set in our universe in an undefinable amount of time in the future where other planets within the universe have begun to be colonized, or they have been for like the last 200 years. And at the ripe old age of 75, you are given the chance to join up with the Colonial Defense Forces, where in exchange for 2 to 10 years of service and your whole life on Earth, you are given an undisclosed rejuvenation process and the chance to start your life all over again. For someone who doesn't like sci-fi all that much, for like the science, technology, and alien kind of reasons, I actually had a really fun time with this. Our main character, John Perry, is a really big Gary Stu who's very smart, capable, and despite the fact that he was an ad writer in his past life or in his life on Earth, he makes a really great soldier. This book was really, really action-packed, lots of fighting aliens and various species all over the universe, but it still had some moments that hit for me. It brought up a lot of interesting questions about humanity and ethics and colonialism. However, it didn't really spend a lot of time discussing or like really diving into those things. However, those were great topic and discussion points for book club. I did have a really fun time with it, but I don't think I will keep reading in the series. Okay, now we're going to get into the romance section here, which is a combo of fantasy romance and contemporary romance. The first fantasy romance book that I read was King of Battle and Blood by Scarlett Sinclair. Then my ongoing search for a fantasy romance book that satisfies both my need for a fantasy plot and a romance or a satisfying romance story, this book delivered on neither. We follow a human girl who agrees to marry a vampire king in exchange for him to stop invading her country. She obviously really hates him, but he seems really into her for some unknown and secretive reasons, and he threatens to turn her into a vampire if she doesn't stop trying to kill him. I have honestly blocked out so much of what happened in this book. I don't remember any specifics, but I will just say that I don't think that Scarlett Sinclair's writing gels with me. I find it really, really minimal in a way that doesn't create any atmosphere or tension or environment or setting. And I thought that the plot was really chaotic. I thought the romance and the secrets there was really obvious, and the intimacy scenes tend more in the direction of quantity over quality. I also thought that it felt really similar to From Blood and Ash, but without creating any of the like angst and bingeable tension and drama that I got from Blood and Ash. I think I did that one. I think I got that one under a minute, at least on my side. Despite the fact that I hated that last book, the next book that I picked up was A Game of Fate, also by Scarlett Sinclair. I was just really in the mood for fantasy romance. I had read A Touch of Darkness last year from Persephone's perspective and thought it was only okay, but I had heard rave reviews about this book, which is the same book but told from Hades' perspective. I am oversimplifying because I just really don't care, but this is like a modern world where the Greek gods have come down to the earth. Hades runs a bar and doles out bargains a la Lucifer from the show Lucifer, and Persephone is pretending to be a human and studying journalism. She winds up in a bargain with Hades to create life in the underworld. I did think that this book provided more cute moments from Hades' internal dialogue. However, I still don't feel like it provided me with any valid reasons for why Hades might be into Persephone other than fate. And fate is a product that I'm never going to buy unless there is more there. In every interaction between these two, it didn't really feel like they were actually into each other other than like sexual desire and attraction. I just don't think that Scarlett Sinclair's writing is for me. If I ever talk about picking up another book in this series, please stop me. The next romance book that I read was Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. This is a contemporary romance book that is the friends to lovers to strangers to together again kind of a trope. It is set in cottage country in Canada, and we are following Percy, who from the ages of like 13 to 17, 18 cottages next door to these local boys, Sam and the brother, whose name I've already forgotten. In the now timeline, Percy gets a call from the brother saying that their mom has died, and she goes back to see them to attend the funeral, and she obviously, of course, runs into Sam. This book is told in the then and now timeline. However, it was weighed heavily more towards the then timeline chapter, so we're actually reading so much more about them being teenagers coming together, whereas the now timeline only covers like a period of 2 days. I needed more out of this book overall because it is skewed so much towards them when they are teens. They're making like a lot of teenager mistakes so that one does in romances. The now timeline is only 2 days, which is not enough time to sell me on recreating or like getting back together after not having seen each other for 15 years. And it does read a little bit more like a YA contemporary because so much of the time is when they are teenagers. Then I read the book A Scoundrel of Her Own by Stacey Reid. This is a historical romance set in the Sinful Wallflower series. It is the third book in that series. In this one, we are following Ophelia, who has made appearances in the previous 2 books, where her friends all know that she has been moonlighting as a singer in the seedy underbelly of London. I thought because of that that was going to be more the setting, that was going to be like a little bit of the tone of this like seedy, scandalous underbelly, like of all of that of London, and that really wasn't the case. We go back a little bit in time to figure out why Ophelia has been doing this, and it just wasn't as scandalous as I thought it was going to be. I thought that Ophelia was going to be like a little more in the know than the other girls because of where she's been hanging out, but that wasn't the case. Devlin is one of those like, I'm a tough, dangerous guy, but who's like politicking to educate poor young children and taking battered women off the streets and providing them with dowries, you know, the Rhysand complex. And ultimately this book just like wasn't quite what I was expecting. It was still really good. I do really like Stacey Reid's writing as a historical romance writer, but it wasn't the vibe and tone and everything that I was expecting out of this book to be. I think I got that one too. Okay, and then the final 3 books I'm actually going to talk about all in one, and that is a trilogy. I read The Summer I Turned Pretty, and I don't remember the order, but it was like, we'll always have summer, and it's not summer without you, whatever. Just those 3 books is The Summer I Turned Pretty trilogy by Jenny Han. Here we go. This is a YA romance series that I did not realize it was YA until the moment that I picked it up. It has the friends to lovers to strangers trope, or at least I had heard that that was the case when I picked it up, and that's why I picked it up. I also did not realize that it was a trilogy, which I don't think I would have read that first book because I cannot not continue on in a series if there is a coupling that I don't know how it winds up. It's the same thing with what happened with me in the Addicted series. I've already spent 25 seconds or 30 seconds by the time I'm finished talking about this. I haven't actually talked about the book. Little girl, Belly, cottages with her mom's best friends and her 2 sons every summer, Conrad and Jeremiah. I just didn't like any of the characters. I hated all of the characters. There was only one good character, and even he got a character assassination at some point in the trilogy. I spent like 48 hours reading these books like a span of 2 days, just binging through this trilogy because I needed to know how it wound up, because it was, of course, a love triangle between two brothers. I hate that. Why do they write these in romance, in YA contemporary romance? I'm giving up. I'm over a minute now. Why? I mean, I think that this is old, so I think I feel better about the fact that, like, it's not like, I don't think YA romances are still like this, but I don't understand why it was ever a thing to write such unhealthy, toxic, horrible behavior in YA books and say, this is romantic. It does not work for me. It should not be what we are telling teenage girls to think, to see as being romantic. I hated it. I hated every moment of it. I wish I hadn't kept reading it. I wish I never picked it up. I hate myself that I read the whole trilogy. Okay, 135, that's actually not bad, or whatever it is. Those are all of the 13 books that I have read since the last time I did my recent reads. I will just briefly talk about the books that I have currently on the go and what I have coming up next. So currently I am reading Malice by John Gwynne. This is the first book in the Faithful and the Fallen series. It is also one of my priority series starts for the year. I'm reading this as a buddy read with all the folks that I was doing the Memoirs of Lady Trent read along with. So Kristen and Sarah and Maria and Kate. I will link all of their channels down below, along with the Discord to Sarah's Discord, the Bookish Discussion Society, where we are chatting about this read along or buddy read. Malice is like a really classic epic high fantasy, very popular series. I am enjoying it so far. I'm about a third of the way in and I do enjoy it. It is definitely like a slower start. It's a lot of setup from what I hear, but I am enjoying it. I am also currently rereading Rune of Kings. I know that I said I wasn't going to do a reread soon, but I have a secret project on the go, so I am rereading it for that and I absolutely love it. I'm about to finish that. I just did the audio only this time and it totally holds up. And then what's coming up next? So I guess I'm technically still reading Priority of the Orange Tree and the first binding, but I'm not like actively reading those right now. I will go back to both of them. I'm just not sure when I'm going to be able to. And then I do have quite a few books lined up to read next. I'm hoping to be able to squeeze in Silver Queendom by Dan Cobalt before the T. Kingfisher Readathon begins on July 22nd. So if that is the case, I will hopefully try to pick that up or at least start it before then. This is a NetGalley e-arc that I have. It is coming out sometime in August. I'll pop up the date on the screen or on the video. And it is like a group of thieves. Their day job is sort of like running an inn or a bar, but they owe a lot of money to someone really dangerous. And so they have to do like a big heist, big con or whatever to pay back all of the money. So that is like it's a classic con heist story from what I hear. So I'm really interested to pick that up and to get to it. And then obviously starting on July 22nd, I'm going to be reading all T. Kingfisher all day, every day until July 31st, until the end of the day, July 31st, for the T. Kingfisher Readathon announcement video and everything linked down below. I do have a full TBR video for that. But I will just quickly say that I'm going to be reading Nettle and Bone, Bryony and Roses, The Raven and the Reindeer, Paladin's Grace, and then either 9 Goblins or Minor Mage. That is my TBR. But if you want to hear more about that, I will link my TBR video for that as well. So that is it. I will stick to that. That's obviously more than 5 books if I read all of those. So hopefully you will hear more details from me before that. I don't want to make any promises with the recent reads, but obviously I am like really going to try to be a little bit more timely with these videos because that was so hard to talk about each of those books in only 1 minute. I mean, obviously it wasn't only 1 minute. I only succeeded like a couple times. But anyway, I will see you guys next time. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.